still waiting on somebody? One more. Let's get one more before. Yeah. I know we don't really need this all the way up here, but do you want to see if you can hear it on the live stream? All right. So. Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Great news. Miracles abound. Well, it's better now. All right. Well, I'm louder now. Yeah, so we'll wait 1 minute. We're waiting on one more person, and then we'll get started. And just everybody take a breath. I know technical difficulties get us all kind of wired up in the midst of this, and it's already a time when we're so many emotions and things going on. So we know it's an emotional moment. So we'll wait just a minute for Shamara. Is that her name? Samira. Okay. Yeah, it was. You guys had a lot of tension trying to get here across Houston traffic. So we're glad you made it. Pouring rain is always, that actually is like pouring of blessings. We're going to see that as pouring of blessings coming in. Yeah. We're off like a herd of turtles. That's what Grandma said. This applies perfectly for how it works. Herding the family of turtles together. Okay, you're the only one on live. They may be on hers instead, since we had suggested they move. So they've got theirs going and we've got ours going, but this will keep it recorded also. So, well, because it's on live stream, it will get recorded on both Facebook. We'll keep it for a while, and YouTube, it's on forever, right?
Did you notice anybody live on your?
I could only see one on one.
Okay.
But I can't tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. So. It's okay. We're going to just honor that.
That would be great. And just let her know to tell everyone in the group. It's on.
All of it now. It's on everywhere now. Yeah, and it's on ours too now, so that's helpful too. Okay, good. You've got a couple on there. Good. No. Or they can go to either one now. It's now working. So we thank you, Spirit, for bringing on the sound. Maybe Lynn was helping. Yeah. But she's probably like the rest of us, not so technically savvy with all of that, right? But you never know on the other side, right? Might have great technical skills now. So. The thingamajig. Right, we got the thingamajig working now for Lynn. Should we wait another minute for you? We'll go ahead and get started. Okay, we're here for the celebration of life of Lynn Buenning, and I know this is a challenging moment, and I want to begin by opening us with prayer and just set the energy as we've been in all the hubbub of getting everything to work, and to understand that we know that there is so much in this, and I love to start with kind of the scripture that I think is so appropriate for your mom, your grandmother. Did you call her grandma or you call grandma? Okay. And that joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. That is actually from Teilhard de Chardin. But the scripture I love is from 2 Corinthians, and it says, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." And so we know her in her freedom at this point. So let's just take a moment to say, thank you, God. We acknowledge your presence and power with us this day as we gather in memory of our dear friend and loved one, Lynn. We give thanks that your Spirit is now moving through all who are gathered here as the only activity there is, the activity of good. We feel this activity as the love that sustains us, the power that strengthens us, as the wisdom that enables us to know that life is eternal and that our beloved Lynn, Mom, Grandma, is ever one with you and all that is good. As we continue here during this time together, we know that your divine presence it will be felt more strongly. We also know that our awareness of your presence brings with it the power to face this with dignity and with love. For this we are grateful, and we affirm that it is so in the name and through the power of your living, loving presence which indwells us all. And so, I'm going to start with a poem that is a famous out of the Unity tradition, but I think it's so appropriate. Knowing your mom and her spirit that is so beautiful and profound. It's from James Dillett Freeman, and it's called The Traveler. She has put on invisibility. This, dear Lord, I cannot see, but this I know. Although the road ascends and passes from my sight, that there will be no night, that you will take her gently by the hand and lead her on along the road of life that never ends, and she will find it is not death, but dawn. And I do not doubt that you are there as here, and you will hold her dear. Our life did not begin with birth, and it is not of this earth. And this that we call death is no more than the opening and closing of a door. And in your house, how many rooms must be beyond this one where we rest momently? Dear Lord, I thank you for the faith that frees, the love that knows it cannot lose its own, and the love that looking through shadows sees that you and she and I are forever one. And so we know that as we're gathered here together, we're here to reaffirm our awareness of life eternal, to love and honor and celebrate this beautiful being and the life that she gave and all the ways that she contributed here in this world, which were many, many. And in that process, we also get to know, how do we face this transition into another realm? How do we feel about it? And it's okay to weep and mourn and grieve. And in some societies, they actually bring in wailers to help you wail, And so whatever needs to happen, and I know this is not brand new. This has been about 3 months now that since she's actually left this planet. Is that right? About 3 months? Oh, about a month. Okay, sorry. I don't know what I had down 3 months for some reason. But in that process that we know that, the grieving goes on, and throughout our lives we feel the loss of our loved ones that were so near and dear to us. And especially moms, grandmas, they have a special place in our heart, right? And somebody who was so special as Lynn was, in that how she approached life and supported so many in her journey. I love some of the things that when I was talking to Lisa about her mom and about it, that, at 84 years young, and yet the last 10 years to be going through the Alzheimer's journey means that you lost her twice. You lose her first in that place where she's no longer remembering everything in the same way, but then you lose her again at this time. So there's always a lot of grief that comes up, and it comes up and touches all the grief that's been involved. We were talking about the loss of things that have happened in your lives, in the situation with the hurricane and the mold. And, there's so many levels of loss that we experience. So we want to honor that all of that gets triggered again in the midst of the loss of a loved one. So be gentle with yourselves. Let yourselves cry and mourn, and know that, all year is going to be a new first without her. And it's going to be, it goes on. So there's no timeline for grieving, and honor whatever you feel as you feel it. Because one minute you're just feeling the joy for her. Another, you're feeling deeply sad and missing her. So honor whatever that is. I like to turn to our way shower, Jesus, as somebody who knew he was leaving. He knew what was coming, and he talked to his disciples to try and get them to be calm in the midst of knowing what was they were going to have to face. And they adored him, right? And he told them in John 14:27, he said, "Peace I leave with you, not as the world gives you peace, but as I give you, let not your hearts be troubled, and neither let them be afraid. So my peace I give to you." So when we take on a different kind of peace of knowing that he knew that there was more to come and that there was that which was happening on the other side. And we know your mom was so aware at so many levels, and that she was already experiencing connection to the other side and having communication. And we know you're going to feel her. You're going to feel her. You're going to have times you smell her, you hear her, you see symbols that represent her. And don't ever naysay those things. Let yourself know it's true. There's communication that's going to go on. And it's one that will help to give you comfort, to know that she goes on, that this is not death for her, but as the poem says, it's dawn. It's a new start in a new way without the challenges of the physical body that she was experiencing at the end. You know, I've heard from many that say that when they see their loved ones, those that operate on those other realms, they're usually like in their 30s or 40s, whenever they were in their prime of their life. They take on that look, and they carry that on. So you can imagine her in the prime of her life, having the time of her life on the other side, but she also feels you all and feels your loss as well. So as we do this, we recognize that as we lay down the bodysuit, the soul is what flies free and continues on, and especially one as powerful. Can you imagine the rejoicing on the other side at what a life she lived, at what she lived? You know, as we were talking about her, you know, some of the words that were used were authentic and caring and grace-filled and earth angel and divinely inspired and Mother Teresa-ness. I mean, who wouldn't want all that said about you, you know? And as we were talking about, you know, that this caregiver, that she was somebody who truly made a difference to others in her life. And we know that all the kids that she helped that were at risk that others gave up on, she never gave up. She believed in the spirit that was in everyone, and to support and to honor. And she continued, no matter where she was, to try and make a difference, even in the nursing home. You know, Lisa was telling me about how she would dance and sing down the hall, you know, and everybody loved seeing her because she lifted everybody's spirits. That, you know, when she first got there, she helped somebody else for a while get acclimated, and, you know, because she was loved to help. She was like a giver. She was a helper. She loved to make others, you know, feel good and support them in so many ways. And I think the sunflower being her favorite flower is so beautiful. And, you know, and how the sunflower, you know, they turn their faces to the sun. And so she like is that shining sun that is radiating light through her life. And as she goes on, to remember her that way, you know, and that her face is still turned towards the sun, even though it's in a whole different way, and that she is the sunshine. And I love that sunflowers also have all those seeds that come out that can feed people, that germinate and bring more flowers to the earth wherever they go. So I see her as like one of those avatar beings that everywhere she stepped, new flowers start to come up. And that when we remember her, it's really important that we can recognize that she was a soul that dedicated her life to serving others. And so we can celebrate the fact that she served in such beautiful ways, and that as you miss her and feel that loss, to know that you can't even imagine the number of lives she touched. And I'm just being given the vision of these thousands and thousands, that the ripples of love that were sent out from her truly rippled into the world in ways that we don't even fully comprehend, but that transformed our very planet we're on because of the love that she shared. And when we understand that, it helps us to recognize what it means to honor this beautiful soul. You know, I love that she was light and playful, and she had her structure, right? She had her structure. You can't just say, oh, anybody's any one thing only, right? We're such a myriad of aspects of ourselves, but to recognize her playfulness was something that was a gift, and that helped all of you to be more playful in your own lives as well. So we want to honor all those things. And I know that actually Lisa's going to come up and talk about her. And I know after I've got you crying, it's okay. Crying is very much allowed in here. It's such an important thing to honor those feelings that we have. And a lot of us wore our blue. I tried to do ocean blue as much as I could, since she loved dolphins and the ocean and all of that, to honor all the ways that she liked life. And it's not a surprise that she would like whales and dolphins, right? Dolphins are the playful sea creatures. They are the most playful of all the creatures of the sea. And whales and dolphins also gather around their family. And they also, are nurturing. And so I think that as we recognize that she related to those water beings because she flowed with life in a lot of ways, even when it was tough. Even when, all the things that happened, and then she no longer was remembered. Now, most of you know that I was the great recipient, the blessed recipient of Chin Chin. And those of you that knew Chin Chin as her late puppy, I don't know how many other dogs she might have had in her life, probably others, but Chin Chin was such a beautiful, sacred little soul. And you could know who she was by how her dog was. I will tell you, not anybody that met Chin Chin would say, that is the sweetest dog I have ever met. That dog just exuded sweetness, which is such a statement of that she's the one that raised Chin Chin, that had Chin Chin all those years. I got to have Chin Chin the last 2 years of Chin Chin's life, and I feel like I got to feel a piece of Lynn's spirit through Chin Chin. And so it was a really sacred, special gift to get to have that little dog and love it up. And I loved that dog so much. I remember when we first got him, he had the fungus from that everybody was dealing with from the mold, and we had to bathe him every single day. But he was so good about it, and such a little love. And I just think her spirit was there, And I want to acknowledge her love of music. We were playing lots of different music as everybody was waiting this morning, and that she did the radio station. She actually ran the radio station that her parents owned for many, many years, took that over. And she loved, of course, I think we probably loved all the same music because I grew up with my dad having huge music collections too. And when you love music, it's like every bit of music, like, oh, this one, oh, this one, oh, this one. And I think she had that kind of spirit, whether it was, what'd you say, Michael Bublé and the Somewhere Over the Rainbow, or the Enya Memory of Time. There's so many different things, but she also grew up with the jazz artists and with, so many different pieces of music. So you all may want to think about a piece of music that she might have loved, and let it be something that you listen to and make it kind of your memory of her as a particular piece of music that you love. It's a thought. So what I'm going to do is Lisa's going to come up. I wanted to give her a minute so she could now and share with the obituary or the whole story more of her life. So Lisa, come on up, and if you can do this. Yeah, I know. If you can't, let me know. I'll come read it.
Okay. Well, I'll try. Yeah, so, when I first sat down to write my mother's eulogy, I thought, well, this is impossible. How do you summarize this beautiful soul's unique life in a short amount of time? We'll be here 10 hours if I go on and on, but I won't. But that's just because that's who she was. She's very impactful. She was very impactful. She grew up in the Midwest, in Oklahoma City is where she was born, and then moved to Kansas, where she and her sisters kind of grew up and went to school, and she went to K-State, and she studied, dance and PE, and she got her degree in teaching, and she was an 80 Pi sorority girl and got very involved in a lot of things. And then she even spent time in Dallas. That's where I was born. And then she moved to Arkansas for a while, and that's where my brother was born, Robbie. And she made her way back eventually to Weatherford, Oklahoma, where she took over the radio station for the family, and did that for quite some time. When it was time for her to make more changes, she went back to teaching in Kansas, and that was the at-risk kids that were with extra needs. And she really dove deep into that until she retired, where she then moved to Arizona, where the rest of the family had made their way to be with family, because family was so important to her. And then eventually ending up in Texas. And it's just interesting because she just lived so many different lives in her one life. And one of the things she would say to me, and it stuck with me, is she would say that she's had a lot of seasons in her life. And I liked the way she put that, because it just somehow made it seem like the big, scary life changes that came up are okay, and they're normal to go to a new shift and a new life, a new piece of life. And I really liked how she would state things like that and just go with the flow, as they would say, that she was so good at that. She had a knack for putting people at ease no matter what was happening in their life. And I really appreciated that. I always called her the true earth angel because she just had such a pure, innocent heart. And she was so giving and caring about other people. It did not matter what she had going on in her life or what was happening. She wanted to sincerely know how you were doing and if she could help in any way. I mean, truly, that was her. That was her depth. She had such a grateful attitude, too, that I remember one of her old sayings, and it's a very old saying, but I liked how she used it, was there before the grace of God go I. And she used it to remind us to stay grateful of where we are and what we have currently, because you just never know. So live in that moment. And I really learned so much from her because of that. She loved life. I mean, she loved music. She loved to dance. Holy cow. She birthed quite a legacy of dancers. Did she not? And she loved children, nature, animals, especially baby animals. That was her thing. But honestly, I think one of her biggest loves was just being able to help and inspire and encourage someone on their path. She really sincerely wanted to see other people win, like really wanted that. And she wanted to make sure they were okay with what they're doing. And that's probably why she became a teacher. She was a true teacher. You know, she taught PE when she was younger, and then she got older and taught the at-risk kids that everyone else gave up on. Because one of the things she was really good at was giving hope. And that's who needed it the most. And she was so good. She got so involved with her students, they would come back and find her to tell her how much she impacted their lives later. And these are usually the kids who don't do that. She also, I really think that in all the things she taught, the best thing she taught was how to do life. Honestly, how to live life. Because even in her later years, when she had gotten some Alzheimer's, and she would have these moments of clarity, and they would just be sprinkled in, and they would be so profound. Sometimes there would just be a profound, we used to call those truth bombs that she would just, boom, of teachings. So there was this thing, so when we were younger and we'd go on family trips, she would teach us this thing where you'd see white horses out in the pasture, and you would make a wish and then lick, stick, stamp it to make your wish come true, to seal it, right? So as she got older, we took her on a trip, and I remember she was lick, stick, stamping all the cows and the mules, and I was asking, I was like, what are you doing? And she said, well, I'm giving them all my love. And I thought, of course, because she's not taking or asking for anything. She's giving because was her true nature of giving. She was also the historian for us, for our whole family. She loved to collect her little treasures everywhere she went. She was collecting things and even pieces of nature and rocks and flowers from every little place we went, and stickers and magnets from this place and that experience, and furniture, oh lordy. She loved antique, and she collected, and I think the family knew it, so they gave her all the antique furniture. But then I realized she was building a tangible scrapbook in which she would tell her memories and stories from. And she would look around, and there were all the stories of all the good moments in her life. And this is what she would do, and again, teach us, right? How to live and how to be and it didn't matter how dark life got, because she would surround herself with those good moments of the people, the places, the experiences in her life, that if she needed support, she'd look at Great Aunt Lucille's China hutch and remember the stories from it. And the old, desk that she had. It's just amazing how she could really pull those things together, because I felt like she was really the glue for our family. And I didn't realize how much she connected me and us to the rest of our extended family until she really wasn't able to do that. She was so loyal and devoted to family in every way. She deeply cared about each and every one of us. She was so connected to us all that I have to tell this story. When I was in labor with Piper, in the hospital, and I had a very long labor. She wasn't able to be there. She was in Kansas, and so we were keeping up with her through the phone, and how things were progressing slowly. And within 30 seconds of Piper being born, she called, wanted to know if she was here yet, because, that's how connected and tuned in she truly was. And I thought, that's rare. Wow, that would never happen again. Until it did with my second child, with Eden, when Eden was born. And sure enough, she called 30 seconds within that child being born, because that was how connected she was. And she had such a connection with all of us in the family, extended individually. And that's what I really appreciate about her. She embodied love. She was a morally beautiful person mixed with this sassy playfulness, silliness, strong independence. She knew how to play when it was playtime and how to deeply care when there was somebody in need. She was a true shining example of how to be a good human in this sometimes difficult life, and she will truly be missed. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Lisa. That's beautiful. I remember, you would bring her in here to services sometimes too, and she would come in with her eyes just always were shining and bright, and that big smile. She was so happy to be there and see people and connect, and, she was always that, and so, yeah, very beautiful. What I'd like us to do is to say, are there others that would like to share a word or a thought for those online? Come on up and say some things about her, whatever you'd like.
So I don't have anything written down, so mine not be as put together as my mom's. But I've thought a lot about my grandma in the past several years, and I've thought that I am so grateful to have gotten to meet one of the most wonderful people, the most strong women I will ever meet in my entire life. And to have met her so early is what some would say, like, a shame to get to hit a peak at such an early point in my life, but to me there is no other way to do it, because she got to be there for my most formative years and got to be present for all of that and has shaped me into the person that I am. And I genuinely don't believe that I would be who I am without her. And I see her in every piece of myself. And for the longest time, I had insecurities about how I looked and who I was as a person, until I realized I look like her. I see my jaw shape is like hers, and I see my eyes resemble hers, and I have not had a negative thought about them ever since, because to resemble somebody who's so, so beautiful is an honor. I have never really identified with the idea of femininity and being a woman, but if there is ever a way to feel closeness to that, it is through her. No doubt. She is so beautiful, and she just took it in this way that was so fun and so accepting and so like, that can look however you want it to look, it doesn't matter. I actually had the honor of getting to come out to her as queer and as well as gender non-conforming, actually several times. And every single time she was so supportive. So just 100% success rate. But I also took her word more seriously than anybody else's in the world. I mean, I was always a very defiant child. If you told me one thing, I would be already in the middle of doing the next thing. Except for when it came to her, for some reason. I don't know what it was, but she was always able to get through to me. There was this one time I had come home from a date she didn't even know I was on. And this was when she was living with us. She was already experiencing a lot of her dementia, and she was on her way to the bedroom to go to sleep, and I was on my way to my room, so we're right across the hall from each other, and she stops me, dead in my tracks. She's like, "Hey, you need to watch out for those red lights, because some people just aren't gonna look out for you." And I was like, oh my God, you didn't even know I was seeing I never spoke to that woman again. And now I've met the love of my life, so I think she was spot on with that one. She is without a doubt one of the best people I've ever known. She has somehow managed to make any situation, no matter how dark, be lighter through and through every single time. And she's done it with a smile on her face somehow, even through the most awful of things. She has always been there. She has always been present. And now I keep pieces of amethyst throughout my room, just throughout it, so that I can look anywhere in my room and feel her presence. And I keep a pack of blackjack gum because that was her favorite. And nobody else in the whole world ever has chewed that gum, I think. So it is just hers. But that means that every time I see it, I get to think of her and nothing else, which I think is so singular and so beautiful. I have a million more stories I could tell, a million more things I could say, but I won't go on for hours. I'll just leave it off by saying that I grew up worrying if I was going to be a kind person. I grew up worrying if I was going to have my morals straight, if I was going to be a person that my parents could be proud of, that my family could be proud of, because family matters to me so, so deeply. And I think about every interaction I've had with my grandma and all the times we've had conversations about the kind of person to be. And I especially had a lot of those talks with her when she started living with us. We would go on walks, and she would tell me her thoughts on drinking alcohol and how it's gross, and why would anybody ever want to do that? It's nasty. Or how I can't believe, some people would act this kind of way and just be rude to people. Why would you be rude to people? And I just think of how many of those things have stuck with me. And so sometimes I'll just have these moments where I'm doing something and feeling insecure about, am I, being a good person? Am I holding true to my morals? And then I think to myself, I'm doing it the way that she would, which means I am doing more than what I would consider to be enough. There is no better person in this world to learn how to be a good person from than my grandma and her daughter. And I think that the two of you have done the best job possible in shaping me into being the best person that I could possibly be. And I am so grateful for that influence every single day of my life, because there is nothing else in this world that could have prepared me to be the person that I want to be. And I find a lot of peace in my heart and a lot of forgiveness and strength. And I feel how it has come from you and from her. and I'm forever grateful for that. So thank you so much, Grandma, for all of the memories and all of the love and all of the lessons that you've brought down to us.
That was beautiful, Eden. I think you really captured that so beautifully. Yeah, you didn't need to have it written down because you had it written in your heart, and that's more important, right? Does anybody else want to say something about Lynn? Yeah, Piper? You need help up the stairs? Mm-hmm. That's all right. That's important.
I also didn't write anything down for this, but I think the best way to describe my grandma was the life of the party. She was very much the type of person where at any social event, really, everyone just kind of gravitated towards her. You know, she was never on the outskirts of the party. She was never the one, standing by the food table awkwardly, not talking to anybody. If people weren't dancing, she was going to make them dance. Or she was going to dance on her own. She never cared. It never bothered her. And that's one thing I admire so much about her, was that she was never scared of being judged. Never. She lived so authentically to herself. And she was so headstrong. Good Lord. So headstrong. She was always the type of person to be like, oh, you don't like what I'm doing? That's sad for you. I'm going to do it anyways. And she would live her life how she, saw fit, which is beautiful because you don't see that type of authenticity these days. So it was refreshing always to get to see that through her. My whole life was amazing, getting to grow up with her. I remember we used to play board games, and if she didn't understand the rules, she would start making up her own rules. And again, it made it more fun because, I was 7 or whatever. And so I want to play Grandma's way. We didn't know, it was very fun. I remember we would always like making popcorn for board game night and for movie night and for everything like that. And for some reason, she would ask me how much popcorn to put, because we wouldn't do like the bag in the microwave. We would do the popcorn kernels in the pot on the stove, like the real old-fashioned way. And for some reason, she always asked me how much popcorn to use, and I was a little kid, so I didn't know. And so I would tell her some amount, and every single time, without fail, the popcorn lid would pop off, and it would be overflowing onto the stove, and it was just this mess every time. But good Lord, we had so much fun laughing and laughing about how much popcorn we had made, and then we'd spend the whole night just snacking on popcorn and playing our game or watching our movie. And I will never forget that because it was so much fun, especially as a little kid, to just sit there with this, mountainous bowl of popcorn and spend time with my grandma over it. It was so very fun. And again, like everyone else has said, she was so very fun-loving and playful. But then also she knew when she had to kind of be serious and have those moments of like, hey, like, I'm here for you, I'm caring for you, I'm not making a joke of it, like, I've got you, and everything like that. And I will say she had this, I'll say uncanny gift-giving ability. She would always find the most fun and bizarre things you never thought of to give as gifts. It was so, and she was always like that, even before the Alzheimer's, but that only exasperated it a bit. But even when I was younger, she would just find the most unique little knickknacks at whatever store she went to. And you would unwrap it, and you weren't really sure why you were getting this, but man, you appreciated it because it was so, you'd never seen anything like it, And I feel like somewhere I probably still have some of those gifts, sitting on a shelf or in a box or something, but it was always so interesting because you never knew what you were going to get, ever. And I feel like that's a good metaphor for kind of how she lived her life. You never knew what you were going to get. You never knew what she was going to do next, and that was the exciting part, was that she always kept you on your toes, but not in a dangerous way, and not in a way that made you worried or anything like that, just in an exciting way. Like, what are we going to do with Grandma today? I have no idea. Let's go find out. You know, it was always an adventure. And I think she very much carried that on throughout her whole life, even in the end, because especially, you know, when her mind started to slip, you never knew what she was going to say. Again, sometimes it was some profound piece of wisdom that you just really had to sit with you. And then sometimes it was the most, you know, outlandish thing that she could have possibly come up with. But both made you love her so much. She was so loved by everybody, and she still is. And I think we all still feel her here in this room and in our hearts. And I even, when I brought the sunflowers today for her, I went to the store, and they had just put the sunflowers out that day. And they don't normally, you know, carry sunflowers, but I went to grab them. And the woman had said, "Oh, we just got those in today." I'm like, of course. For the first time in I don't even know how long, you got sunflowers in today on the day of her service. Because those symbols are everywhere, and she is with us, and she is making that known. You know, she's sending those symbols of like, hey, you know, I love sunflowers. You're at the store looking for flowers, here are the sunflowers. She's here with us, and we can feel it and we can see it. Like Reverend Kira was saying, those symbols are there, and she's letting us know in her own little ways that she's still here, and she is still the life of the party, and she doesn't want all eyes off of her yet. She's still very much the center of attention in that way, and I think that that's beautiful. I really do. And, you know, of course, I wish she had gotten to meet her great-granddaughter, but I know she'll still be with us here in that delivery room, and I know something, maybe 30 seconds after she's born, maybe a sunflower commercial will come on the TV or something like that. She'll show that she's there. I know she will, because she's got that uncanny ability. So I think it's beautiful that we're all here remembering her today and feeling that love, because she is and was so very loved by everyone.
Keep you steady. I can imagine that she's already having conversations with Daphne, with baby Daphne. They're in great conversation. She's got her all ready to come in and be with you. Yeah, so I can imagine that's going on the other side. Anybody else like to say something about, and I can bring the mic out or we can do it, but they're wanting to watch. I want to make sure. Anybody else want to say something? You know, it's important. Some people are better at the public speaking side, and you guys are so gifted at it, all your family. And you know what? You all speak from your heart so beautifully. And that's really a great trait that I see in this family that's been passed on, and that lineage that you carry. So what I want to acknowledge is that one of the things as we close this time of honoring her, because it's just the beginning, you're going to have many, many ways of honoring her over the years, that little memories and moments that are going to come up and touch your heart. But I think that part of this is also a time when we think about what legacy she gave. And as each of you have spoken, you spoke of some of the legacies. And I always invite everyone in a memorial service to think of quality that she possessed, that you would like to dedicate that quality in your own life to her. And as you develop and work on it even more, you recognize, oh, this is for Lynn. This is for Grandma. This is, because she would love to live through me vicariously, through my playfulness today, or through, the love that I share, or the way that I serve, or whatever it might be. So I find that it's very powerful for us to create a living legacy to her by how we are being. And I think she I know, was very, very proud of you girls, and all of you, your daughters and her granddaughters. And I know that was such a big deal, for her, that she got to spend time with you, and you got to get the experience of her as well. So at this point, I'm going to share another poem that I want to end with today, and that it's called Eternal Vision. They know me not who think that I am only flesh and blood, a transient dweller on the fragile spaceship Earth that gave me human birth. For I am spirit, eternal, indestructible, not confined to space or time. And when my sojourn here is through, my roles fulfilled, I will lay aside this spacesuit. My assignments are done. Those assignments, then I will let go of my body and move on to other mansions, other roles and assignments in our Father's house of eternal life. So dry your tears. Weep not overmuch for me, or for yourself. Set me free in love that holds us all and makes us one eternally. Our paths will cross again, and our minds and hearts will continue to touch. Our souls will shout with joy and laughter as we recall the lives we lived and the worlds we've seen and the ways we've tried to find ourselves at last together in God. And so we know that she is in that eternal oneness, and that you all have lived many connections, and those continue. I love that you put the amethyst around to experience her, and that I know you all have many ways that you're going to continue to experience her spirit. And to know that as we acknowledge her today, we send her off knowing that she goes with laughter and leaving a trail of laughter and goodness behind her. And that's a beautiful thing to say about someone's life, that they leave a trail of laughter and goodness that cannot be denied by who you've become because of her influence, and who you will touch, the lives you will touch because of the influence that she left. And so to treasure the sacred time that you had together, and to know it's not over, because she will come to you in dreams, in thoughts, in sunflowers, in different ways that show up, rainbows or different moments. So whatever way you are, remember, just recognize that she's going to be reaching out and be a part of your life on an ongoing basis. And you can know, oh, there's Grandma. There she is. Oh, there's Mom. Oh, there she is. Of course she's having the time of her life. I knew immediately when I heard that she was in the transition. I already was having the conversation with Chin Chin too, going, oh, I know you're there greeting her, and Lisa said, oh yeah, before she left, she goes, oh, Chin Chin, and she was talking to her sister, and that's part of it. We are connected. And so that connection to family and that interconnection, it continues. And so we want to say to you, Lynn, Godspeed in this movement into the next phase of life. Enjoy every part of the journey. You deserve it. And we are grateful for the time that you shared your life here and the lives that you brought forth by your beauty and your magnificence and the lives that you touched. So let's just do a standing ovation to a life well lived. Piper, you don't have to stand. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you all for celebrating Lynn's beautiful life. Thank you. God bless you. Amen. And there are goodies. Our folks have created a little reception for you all out there. So we've got some veggies and some different goodies and vegan cookies. We did, and regular cookies too. My grandma